Hello there. I hope you had a nice summer break. Now, unfortunately, it's back to school. I'm Guillaume. I'm your lecturer for this course, ACTL3142. In this video, I want to give you an overview of the course, talking about things like the course structure, the resources, the website, the Moodle, the assessments, overall, how the course is run. I prefer to do that in a separate video so I don't waste 30 minutes of time in the first lecture. I like to jump straight into the content. So all this information obviously is more housekeeping items, but it's still very important. So yeah, here I'll do it in this video, not in class, but I don't want to be accused of not doing my job. So let's jump into this overview content. So here we are, course overview. Teaching team, well, that's me, Guillaume. You can call me Gilly. That's usually much easier, and I quite like it. A very Aussie sounding nickname. These other people, I would say hopefully you don't see them because they're the T2 lecturer, right? So if you see them, it means you failed the course and you take it again in T2. I hope this doesn't happen. And then lastly, Patrick, he's not involved in the course this year, but he's the mastermind behind all these slides and the nice course website that we have. So I wanted to acknowledge that, but please don't bother him, right? Because he's off duty for this course. Your tutors are here: Jim, Nick, Jason, Thiert. A bit rude of me not to put their photos there, but their photos are on the Moodle of the course, so you may recognize them from this. I mean, I can probably show you already. Yes, they are here on the right of the Moodle. So first things first, what is this course about? It's a quite practical course. So we want to develop practical skills for building models, something we call predictive models. We have a set of variables, but we use them to predict another variable that is the one we care the most about. And also classification models. We're going to explain in the first lecture what we mean by a classification model. Obviously, we want to understand how these models work, but also when and why they might not work, because every model has assumptions that might not be verified. And also, of course, we want to understand how to interpret correctly our model's results. And frankly, here, it might be the most important aspect, because these days with AI, anybody more or less can fit a model. But to understand what the model is actually doing, what the actual findings are, avoid pitfalls in interpretation, know the limits of the model, all this judgment part of fitting models is where hopefully your expertise will still be needed in elsewhere, right, in the workforce. And then here we actually have an AI image of maybe you in the future. You know, this young lady here might be you in the future, explaining to this this barista-looking gentleman how he can increase his sales of matcha lattes or whatever is trendy at the moment. So the course contents and structure here, we split them into two parts. So what is called here regression theory, and we'll spend 4 weeks on this, and then what is called here machine learning. So those first 4 weeks are, I would say, fundamental or foundational. I would not call them machine learning. This is kind of classical statistics stuff, theories that were developed many decades ago, but still very important and very used today. And also the foundation that we will need to then dive into those more machine learning concepts. Those are methods that are kind of more modern. Typically, they involve a lot of computation, and also obviously very useful for practical applications. Just a side note that when I took over this course last year, I kind of changed this a bit. So this is the new version, of course. It used to be that we would spend 5 weeks on regression theory, but this meant that the very last week, we would still need to cover new content. I don't especially like that. I like to have a bit of a breather at the very end to hopefully not need to present any new theory, but still we would have an industry guest lecture. So people from the industry that use a lot of predictive models, a lot of machine learning and things like that, they're going to come talk to us about all the nice usage they have in their work for this. Also, this I'll confirm later, but I think I should probably note from now my intention about the public holiday. So in week 8, the lectures are on Monday, right? So there's public holiday, it's Easter. And I have a bit of a trouble with this because this week 8 is kind of very important. It's a big week, and I don't want to give you a video for this. I wanted to cover it myself in the class, especially because your assignment will use week 8 almost certainly. Week 7 is also quite important, but maybe not as important and not as big a week. So my point here is just this. Probably what I'll do is week 7, I'll actually give you a video of that content in week 6, the flexibility week. This way, the tree-based methods week 8, we can actually cover it earlier, week 7, which should help you for your assignment. But then week 8, there wouldn't be any new content, and we can finish the theory in week 9. Okay, that's my plan, to be confirmed. But it should be better for you in terms of like finishing the content you need a bit earlier for the main assignment. Learning activities. I would say self-study is quite important in this course. So you have a textbook that is free that I strongly recommend you read. Like you read every week. There's a reading list. That reading list is on the homepage of the website. I'll show the website in a moment. Yes, please don't skip the readings. They should really help you to solidify your knowledge, right? To improve your understanding with more explanations, more examples, and achieve that sweet HD I'm sure you've been dreaming about. I still call the readings strongly recommended and not mandatory, strictly speaking. The lecture slides are quite comprehensive, but the readings really complement your learning. Obviously, we have the lectures that you should attend and engage in actively. Now here there's a line that says, if needed, we may provide extra lecture recordings whenever in-class time is not enough to cover all content. So in fact, here I can announce already that I'm gonna give the face-to-face lecture only the 2 hours on Monday. And then the 1 hour that is scheduled for Tuesday, I'll send you a video to cover that additional hour. I've done that last year and it worked quite well. It's just my experience that students already struggle to show up for 2 hours and they don't really show up for 1 hour. And so this is what we're going to do. 2 hours face-to-face, Monday, whatever I need to cover, because most week we will need the full 3 hours, but that extra hour will be a video I'll send them separately. Okay, of course we have tutorials. I mean, they're called labs here, but that's often called tutorials. You already have all the tutorial questions on the course website. That again, I'm going to show in a moment with some solutions. Obviously, those are just suggestions for solutions. You could come up with your own solutions that might be as valid or even better. I suggest you try, when possible, to do them ahead of the tutorial. This way, you come to the tutorial and you know what's going to happen a bit more. I understand it's not always realistic to do everything ahead of time. If you can have at least a look to the questions before, I think it's beneficial. There's a system there with stars. So some questions have a star. I would say those are like the top priority questions. Those that if you're limited with time, you should do them, first. And then if you have time, you do the others. But the others are also relevant, right? Any questions in the labs are a useful practice for assignments and final exam. Okay, so we have a website to the course, and by website, I mean a publicly available website. The address is a bit long and complicated here, but there's also a shortcut that you can try here. Maybe it's better if I show you the website here. And so it's nicely organized, by module. So the course overview, for example, is what I'm presenting here. And you see it's a website, so it's a scrollable, website. But you can also find the slides. So the slides version of the content, it's the same content, but given via slides. So here I just clicked on this thing, other format, reveal JS, and then those are exactly the slides I was presenting. And every week is like that, right? Module 2, linear regression. There's also slides if you prefer that format. Right here, and so on. Then what else do I have to say about the website? Not much. I mean, there's a search bar here that is quite nice if you want to search a specific topic, say a GLM. You're going to find all the pages that speak about GLMs and so on. The labs are also there. So lab here. The labs do not have a They do not have a slides format, but I don't think that matters. You do have a PDF. So if you prefer to check the lab problems as a PDF, you can do that. There's even links there where you can jump to the solution, all right? And then jump back to the question. Amazing. Oh, and lastly, actually, it's harder to find, but the slides also have a PDF version if you prefer that, but you need to find them on the home here. So if you go to the home here, for some reason, this is the only spot where you have the slides. If you click slides here, you get the slides, but in a PDF, which makes a difference because it's much easier to annotate a PDF than like a HTML. Anyway, for your information. Okay, so many options for you. Catering different learning preferences or styles. Now that I'm on the home, let me present you what's here. So you have all the contents. So again, this is just equivalent to what's on the left, like course overview, introduction, linear regression, blah, blah, blah. But then you also have the labs. Then you have here a glossary of R functions. Yes, we use R as a programming language in this course. And here, yes, you have the readings. As I said, organized by weeks. Week 1 already, you should do those readings. Week 2, you should do those readings, and so on. Sometimes there's optional readings as well, but okay, here this is called required. I would say strongly recommended. Okay, data sets we use, contributions, and etc. Okay, back to the overview slides somewhere here. Okay, the textbook, as I mentioned before, you can download it for free. Maybe it's worth it for me to show you if I click this link. There's 2 versions, right? So one that uses R as the programming language, one that uses Python. In this course, we're going to favor R, or at least all the code I'm going to present to you and the code used in the labs is R. So I do suggest you follow the R version. Now, what else do I have to say about the book? It's quite a nice book. Like it's used all over the world in many universities because it's easy to read. I would say it has a focus on intuition and practical applications rather than say heavy theory or heavy proofs or heavy maths, right? So if you're very math oriented and you don't see all the proofs, okay, you might be slightly annoyed, but I think most of you will prefer that the book is quite practical, examples and code and intuition. Okay, Moodle, we use it, but because we have all the resources on the website, we use it in a relatively minimal manner, right? So obviously you'll find some basic course info on the Moodle. The lectures are still hosted on Moodle via this Echo 360 platform. Assessment submissions is still made on Moodle. And then from Moodle, you can jump to the website, jump to the Ed discussion forum that we'll use for class discussion. About Ed, so probably you've seen it in other courses. If not, that's not an issue. This is another platform we use, but it has a few different purposes. It's our primary mode of communication. So me communicating to you, all my announcements, I'll post them on Ed, not on Moodle. But also we will create channels for every tutorial. So in fact, your tutors as well might communicate to you on those Ed channels that are specific to each tutorial. And you, of course, when you have questions, you ask them on Ed. So that's what I just said. Now you must open the Ed form at least once to be enrolled. That's not really true, actually. It's true by default, but I, in the background, upload everybody already on Ed. So unless you enroll late, everybody should be already enrolled in Ed and be able to see the content. So, I mean, just in case you've never seen Ed before, I can just show you. Looks like this. So when you get to Ed, which again, you can reach, let me go to the Moodle. So that's the Moodle. At the very top, you have Ed forum. If you click this, you'll land on the Ed page for our course. The first page is where you ask questions. So there's no questions because semester or trimester is about to start. But if you have a question, you click new thread, give it a title. I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And then you're careful with this. You need to pick a category, right? So announcement, probably you never make announcements. I make announcements, but you would ask a question about the course content. And in fact, questions on course content, you would pick a subcategory. So you don't understand something about linear regression, you post it here, blah, blah, blah. Or you have an admin non-technical question, you post it in this category, and so on. You have a question about assessment, you posted it in this category. Picking the right category is helpful to other students because then they can find easily information about assessments in the same spot, right? They would click assessment here and see all the questions about assessments. What I said before is that there's also the chat where your tutorial channels are. So if you go to chat, there's nothing here, but if I'm in the Tuesday 14 p.m. Tutorial, well, this is where my tutor might write nice messages to me. And also, since I'm here already, let me just show you. There's also this tab, resources. So resources, I'll put a few files there, like files that I would say have no business being online on the public website. Because yes, the public website is available to the whole world, right? So you can invite your friends and family to visit the website. Obviously, they don't have access to ads. So for example, past exams, I don't want to put them on the website. I put them here. Assessment files, I'll actually put them here. I don't know where else. Maybe feedback about assessments, I'll put them here. And data sets about the assignment, I'll put them here. Now back to my slides. The benefits of asking questions on ed, well, obviously, you get help. Please don't be shy. We really are here to help you. If you have a question, it's very likely somebody else has the same question. So if you ask it, you're going to benefit many people. It creates a community. As you see the other students have questions, you realize you are not struggling alone. You don't have to struggle alone. So it also gives you the opportunity to help others. And if you know the answer to a question asked by another student, please answer. Okay, don't be shy. We're going to monitor the answer, so don't be afraid to say something slightly wrong. We're going to correct this. Obviously, one of the best ways to solidify your own understanding is to explain it to somebody else. And it makes the teaching staff happy because then we don't have to answer a bunch of emails, right? Ed is much more efficient than if I need to answer the same question 5 times via emails. And by the way, I won't do it, right? If you ask me, sir, I don't understand exercise, blah, 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 by email, I'll say, ask this on Ed. And obviously, you want the teaching staff to be in a good mood, right? When they grade your assignment. Okay, a few tips on the best use of the forum. Before posting, maybe check through the lecture notes that and course content if you can find the answer easily. We ask that you please try before posting. We don't want the forum to become your crutch. Yes, we want to help you, but making sure that you've gone through the theory and still you don't understand, then you ask a question, I think is better, because obviously, in the exam, for example, you won't have access to Ed. You will have access only to your own mind and your understanding. Search before you post. Very often the same student, no, not the same student, but a different student asks the same question, which is slightly annoying when I see that. Be specific. Please include the attempt you've made to solve a particular question. If you ask something very generic, like, I don't understand this exercise, it's hard for us to give you an answer. We don't understand what you don't understand. Show some love. Yes, you can heart react any post made by others, which is nice. When I get a heart reaction from on my answers, it makes me very happy. And also for your information, heart reactions are anonymous completely. I don't know who hearted my post, and other students don't know who hearted their post, so you don't have to be afraid to suck up to the teacher by heart reacting, right? Just saying. As I said, obviously you are encouraged to answer other students' questions. Okay, this I explained a moment ago. Ed resources. Okay, this is on the top right on your Ed. I'll show it again. This thing, resources, as opposed to just discussion, right? Resources and then discussion. This is where some files will be put. Okay, files that, as I said, are specific to a UNSW cohort of students. Yeah, things like assignment files, global assessment feedback, annotations made in class, past papers. Okay, assessments, finally, right? Because that's probably the part you're more interested in. So three big categories, but within those categories, there's a few things to explain. So formative assessments, and this is worth 10% in total. Okay, there's going to be a small introduce yourself task, only 1%. And then there's going to be 5 so-called story walls, 3% each, 5 of them, but you see, obviously it doesn't sum to 10. 10 is the max, right? So you have many opportunities to reach that 10%, which is nice, right? It gives you flexibility to miss, well, you can miss up to 2 of those 3% tasks. And if you do all 3 of the others and you do that 1%, introduce yourself, phew, you still get your 10 out of 10. The assignment, it's 1 item in the course outline, but it's 2 deliverable and it's 2 independent deliverables. So really, you should conceptualize them as 2 assignments because you can do badly in part A, but you could still technically get full marks in part B, right? And also, when we mark part B, we don't want to have to look at part A. So you can't say in part B, refer to part A. No, you need to reproduce whatever is still relevant to part B. Obviously, that will make more sense when you read the actual assignments. They're still related conceptually because they'll use the same data set, right? They'll use the same data set, so there's still going to be some coherence between those 2 assignments, but we grade them independently, if that makes sense. Okay, 12%, 18%, used to be 10% and 20%, but then students told me it's a lot of work for only 10%. So I considered making it 15-15, but I still want the second part to be worth a bit more. Like, so if you messed up in the first part, it doesn't hurt as much and you can kind of bounce back on the second part. Okay, and then final exam, invigilated, on campus, no ChatGPT. Okay, what is story wall? Maybe a assignment format you've seen elsewhere. Those are formative assignments. And so they're designed to encourage you to engage with the course content, kind of step by step, week by week, without the fear of needing to be, 100% correct to get the marks. So you'll complete them by submitting posts to a specific Moodle forum. I'll open those very, very shortly on Moodle. And here, careful, there's 2 steps to each story wall. So you must attempt every component of the questions. Usually there's going to be a context or setup with a data set, and then there's a few different questions about this data set. And then clearly show your written answers to all the components, all the questions. But then also must record a screen capture where you explain your code. Okay, I think 4 out of 5 of the story wall, 4 out of 5 will have a strong programming component. So for those, you'll need to record a video where you explain line by line your code, all the code that you use to produce your answers. Now, I already foresee that some students will be slightly annoyed with this requirement, so I put here the reasons for this. First reason, to improve your own understanding. Explaining something to others is really the best way to make sure you understand it yourself, because you need to articulate why you made this decision, why this line of code, why this function, why this argument, etc. And also, let's be honest, many of you might be tempted to use some AI to help you. That's fine, but I want to help you to make sure you can critically think about what the AI has produced, right? So it's not only grabbing it and putting it there as you answer. You need to make sure you understand and correct it whenever AI has made a mistake or a choice that you would not have made, and things like that, right? So critically think about the outputs from the AI, make sure you understand them, and you can, maybe improve them. And explain what you've done. So maybe a third I could have put here is presentation skills. I'll give you detailed instructions, very detailed instruction of what I expect in those video recordings, right? This will be on Moodle alongside the actual submission or submission forum. Okay, now story wall grading. Those are graded on a pass or fail basis. Okay, so you get the marks or you don't. So again, those are formative, meaning we don't expect like perfect answers for full marks. But you must give it a fair shot, and you must attempt every part of the questions, every part of the task, and your video needs to be quite detailed. Okay, your video needs to explain your code line by line. So missing a component or providing only vague code description, even if the rest of your submission is high quality, will result in a 0. Okay, small caveat to that. I'll put that in the marking criteria on Moodle, but I'll actually make it so that the written answers will be worth 2%. And this video recording of you explaining your code will be worth only 1%. And this will be, so those will be kind of independent, right? So if you don't bother doing the video, you can still get your 2 or 2%. So you would get 2 out of 3 in that case. This way, if you've calculated correctly, you could ignore this video requirement for all the tasks and still get 10 out of 10, right? But then, of course, you need to do all 5. You need to do all 5. If you do the video, you get this extra 1%. You have the privilege, let's say, of doing only 3 of those story walls and getting full marks, 10 out of 10. If, of course, you do the introduce yourself task. Okay, that way I want to, maybe minimize student complaining that, oh, it's tedious to do a video, it takes time, blah, blah, blah. This is all to help you, right? And frankly, those are pretty easy marks, right? So I think it's a reasonable ask that, well, I require you make those videos. Okay, this I've already said. Okay, all those story walls, well, the five ones that are 3% each, they're due in week 3, 4, 7, 8, 10. Pro tip, yeah, aim to get 10 out of 10 for this component. So, because I would say those are not automatic marks, right? You need to do, a sensible job to get the mark, but they should be relatively easy marks. Okay, now the assignment called project here, as I said, part 1 is 12%. Part 1 is due week 5, Friday of week 5, 11:55 a.m. Careful about that, a.m. So it will be a data science task using techniques mostly from the regression theory part of the course, so those first 4 weeks. And then the second part will use the same data set, but will be a bit broader. So then you will be asked to use any techniques you find relevant from the entire course. Well, maybe not week 9, but because the assignment is due week 9, but week 1 to 8. Okay, just a summary of all the deliverables, all the due dates. All due dates are Friday, 11:55 a.m. Okay, right before noon. Introduce yourself will be Friday, week 1. Shouldn't be too stressful because it's an icebreaker. Okay, and then you have something due almost every week. The thinking here is that to help you stay up to date, relatively small deliverable every few weeks, I think is a bit better than one big thing at the very end. Okay, late policy. For the formative assessments, sorry, but we do not grant any special consideration, okay? And you cannot submit a task late. This is because we already have a lenient marking scheme, right? You already have the possibility of missing 2 of those 3% tasks and still get 10 out of 10. So this, I would say, is a sort of automatic special consideration mechanism. I understand you might be sick a given week or you have something unavoidable, you cannot submit it, but that's fine. You get 2 more chances, right, to get the 10 out of 10. Okay, now, obviously, for the assignment, we can grant special consideration, but that's never the lecturer making the decision, right? This is a centralized UNSW system. You apply to the system with hopefully some justification. You went to the doctor, you coughed a bit. They said, okay, you're sick. You can submit later. Yeah, I mean, the people there will make the determination as to whether or not your reason is valid, right? And then for the assignment, the likely outcome, if successful, will be an extension. Yeah, if you ask me directly, I'm sick, blah, 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 I'll be a bit cranky because it's not really my job, but I'll refer you to the UNSW central system of special consideration. Okay, late submissions for the assignment will incur a penalty of 5% per day, okay? But any partial day, right? So 1 minute late, it's already 5% penalty. 1 day and 1 minute, 10% penalty, and so on. But up to 5 days, right? So if you submit more than 5 days late, you get 0. Okay, this, I hope it doesn't insult your intelligence, but there's just a breakdown of what this means. For assignment part 2, due week 9, Friday, if you submit 11:55 a.m., okay, you played with fire, but you submit on time, no penalty. You submit 1 minute late, 5 penalty. If you submit, 5 days late, is that 5 days? No. 4 days late and 1 minute, that's already 25% penalty. But if you submit 5 days and 1 minute late, you get 0. Okay, 5 days and 1 minute late, you get 0. Then what else? Just a note here. The penalty is additive. Okay, submission 1 day and 1 minute late is 10%, but it's minus 10%. So meaning if your score were to be 80 out of 100 without the lateness, now it's going to be 70. Okay. I need to specify this because I think some lecturers might do something different. Like they would multiply here by 0.9, which is a bit more generous. No, for me, it's minus 10%. Okay, beware of plagiarism. Obviously, all the rules around academic integrity and plagiarism apply to this course. So do not send or show your work to other students. If they use it and they have something very similar to you, you might get in dire trouble. And for your information, I am actually the academic integrity advisor for the School of Risk and Actuarial Studies. So it might be the worst course for you to try this out. I don't know if I should say, but last year I was teaching ACTL3141 and I found a lot of plagiarism and I did follow up on it. So anyway, okay, if you use something directly from an external source, you need to cite it, and this includes the AI, right? So I will ask for this explicitly, but I will ask you to have a generative AI usage appendix in your main assignment. Well, you explain in detail how you've used AI if you use it. If you haven't used it, I will still ask you for this appendix, but then you'll just say, I haven't used it, which these days is quite unlikely, but I know some people just don't like AI. That's fine, but you still need to tell me you haven't used it. And otherwise, you need to detail how you've used it and use the referencing system that UNSW has in place, right? For your information, there's a page about this here. Referencing AI in assessments. That's the official guidelines from higher up, UNSW. So this is what you should follow. Okay, final exam. There's many years, as I showed before, there's many years of past papers. Just a comment that probably the recent years are more relevant because the content of the course has changed quite a bit. And especially, so I give you the T1 2025 paper. I wrote it, right? I taught the course last year. So T1 2025 paper is the most representative of what I might ask. Obviously, the questions will be different, but the style of exam should be similar. I'll tell you all the information you need to know about this later, but just for information, exam will be held on Inspera. So this means it's a platform where you do the exam on your computer, your own device that you bring to campus. So it's still invigilated in a room like this, or maybe a few rooms like that, but you do it on a device, right? Not pen and paper. But again, I'll give you all the details about this when the time comes. Okay, so that's the overview of the course here. Briefly, there's a bit of student feedback, so I'm not going to go through all of this exhaustively, but I think it's good to give you the words of previous students about what they think of the course. So quickly here. Okay, we start with a long paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but very positive, about the practical / computer science, programming aspect of the course. You can read this, but the conclusion was this shift in interests from application to creation is why I'm considering changing my degree from actuarial to computer science, right? So they really enjoy the coding aspect. Okay, I don't know how happy my boss would be to know this, that we're losing actuarial students to computer science. But anyway, they were very positive. But in opposition, some students struggle a bit with the code. This comment I put here for information, I don't think is representative, to be honest, but some students might be a bit cranky at how much coding they have to do. In this specific code, they say that they had 500 lines of code in their assignment. Suspect is because they were not very efficient in their coding, but I don't know. And then they're a bit cranky. But again, I put this here for your information. I don't think it's representative, especially at the end, they say, we have ComSci heavy assignment, no spoon feeding. So they want to be spoon fed. But also they say 30% for the assignment is way too much. We want 70% final exam. I don't think most of you would prefer that, but who knows? Just a few comments about this, the coding aspect of the course. Yes, there is a substantial amount of programming to do. This course is by no means a computer science course. It's still a stats slash machine learning course with quite a lot of theory and derivations, but we need to apply the context using the computer, using programming. I think it's fair to say it can be very enjoyable to actually fit models to real data and find useful insight that apply to the real world. It can be very rewarding when your fitting works and you have nice findings. Obviously, it can also be frustrating when your code doesn't work, and that's the experience we're all going through. Have at some point, we try to compile, it doesn't work. There's a bug somewhere. There's the comment here is there's no way to progress in your skills without simply making lots of mistakes and learning from them. Please view this course as a safe environment to learn these skills, potentially make some mistakes now that then you don't make when it really counts, right? When your boss is really waiting for this report that is valuable to the company, right? You would then have the capability and confidence to make informed decisions later in your career based on rigorous understanding of machine learning. Wow, what a nice sentence. And lastly, this is a comment. With some likelihood, okay, your future career will have a sizable data science / statistical programming element. Okay, these days especially, it's kind of part of the deal with your chosen profession, actuarial, maybe data science, maybe business analytics. So maybe view this course as an opportunity to reflect as well on your career path, right? If in this course you realize you're absolutely averse to coding and you're sure of this, well, it's time to reflect on where with an actuarial degree you can go that doesn't have too much coding in the job. Okay, then here, suggestions for you. Get a rubber duck. Yes, this is a serious suggestion. It's a real thing. You see, it's a real thing because there's a Wikipedia article about this. So what is this rubber duck business? Well, if you have a little rubber duck here on your desk, you can speak to it. And especially when your code doesn't work, you can explain your code to the rubber duck, and then you go in detail, line by line. You say, rubber duck, first I do this, then I don't know, I import the data, then I filter this, and then explaining to the rubber duck, you realize, I made a mistake. It's the wrong extension for my file. Silly mistake. Thank you, rubber duck, for helping me debug my code. Obviously, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek this, but it works, right? Explaining what you're doing helps you find the mistakes. You could do that with a friend or a boyfriend or girlfriend or maybe your parents. Although the advantage of the rubber duck is that they always listen. They're never annoyed with you. They never judge you. Don't know if you can say the same thing about your boyfriend or girlfriend or even parents, right? Your parents, I don't know how they're going to react, right? My son or daughter, they're coding. I wanted them to be a doctor and now they're coding. Also, last recommendation, if you speak to the rubber duck, do it at home, right? If you do it in a public space, don't know what's going to happen there. You might get some looks from people around. Although it's a free country, right? You do what you want. Okay, this is just a bit more feedback. And yes, here we start with the positives, right? We're giving ourselves a bit of awards here. All the nice things here that students said about this course. I'm not going to go through this. You can read that if you want. But overall, it's a well-liked course. I think on average, students find it quite practical, quite useful. We finally do things, right? We get our hands dirty in data, and we fit this data, and then we have some conclusions that apply to hopefully to real life. I did, to be fair, I did put as well a bit later the more negative, or I should say constructive comments from the students about the course. Yes, okay, what can be improved? I think most of those comments are about the fact that the course is very content heavy. Yes, there's quite a lot to cover, and obviously in only 9 weeks at UNSW, but that is, I think you would be used to that by now. ACTL3142 was a bit like that for those who did it with me, but for those who did before as well. And I'm sure, and 2131 is very packed. So you know the drill by now, right? Every week, new content. My recommendation obviously is to be up to date as much as feasible. What else do they say? Well, some people complain assignments are a bit too long. I don't know, might be true, but I don't know if they're long. It's just that the assignments are quite, I would say, open-ended. I give you a task, but there's so many models you could use to do the task. So then it's long just by the fact that you probably want to check many of those models, right? So there's not much I can do here if I want to be if I want to have an assignment that's authentic, right? Giving you a real data set, giving a pretty open problem, because in real life, often the problems are not super well defined, like in an exam question, do this specifically, But anyway, I don't want to get on a tangent here. Yeah, too much content giving me nightmares. Sorry about that. Okay, you can review this. And then lastly, again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to read them, but there's comments here from not from the my experience, because all of those comments before were from my experience, but here this is from a course reflection, probably from 2024, advice, right? So is there anything you wish you could have told your former self before starting the course, right? So again, this is what students said about the course, what they wish they had known before they started. Could be useful for you to review those. I'm not going to do it here because this video is already pretty long. But it is the end of the slide, so I hope I didn't forget anything important. If I did, I'll let you know on the Ed forum, where again, I will make all my official, not assignments, but announcements. For now, thank you very much if you watched up to here. Hope to see you in my class. If you don't make it to the class, I hope to make it to your tutorial. And I think that's it. So for now, peace out.